All right. Well, it's that time again. Time for us to start our monthly Health Innovation Community Partnership meeting. We're so excited you're able to join us today, March 3rd, for our March monthly meeting. I'll go ahead and kick things off here. Um, as you know, we are hosting our meetings via Zoom, and so we want to cover some of our Zoom tech tips to make sure everyone's able to fully participate. As a note, this meeting is being recorded. The recording and meeting materials will be posted on the hicpla.org website in about a week's time. So if you miss anything here today or want to refer this meeting to a colleague, you can always point them to our website. We do ask all attendees to please mute yourself unless you are speaking so we can minimize any background noise for our presenters. You can turn your audio and video off or on by clicking on the microphone or camera in the toolbar at the bottom of your screen. We want this to be an interactive meeting, so we encourage people to raise a hand if you have a question you'd like to ask, and we'll invite the presenters to respond to your questions at the appropriate time. You're also always welcome to type your questions into the chat box, and we will respond to those questions at the appropriate moment. Finally, this meeting is being interpreted into Spanish for those of our guests who want to listen in that language. So we ask all of our presenters, myself included, to please speak slowly and clearly so that our interpreter has an opportunity to stay present with us. If you'd like to take advantage of the Spanish language translation, we encourage you to click on the interpretation globe at the bottom of your screen. Let's take a quick run through of our agenda today. We'll kick off with a presentation from our LAC USC Medical Center. We'll also get some updates on campus projects, as well as the General Hospital and West Campus request for proposals project. We also will have a workforce development updates from our colleagues at the Department of Economic Opportunity. And then we're delighted to welcome our friends from USC to present to us on the proposed Discovery and Translational Research Hub. So that is our agenda for the day. I know there'll be a lot of interesting information, a lot of wonderful presentations. As always, we invite you to participate fully by raising your hand or typing comments or questions into the chat at the appropriate time. Before we begin, I'd like to read our guiding principles that help form the Health Innovation Community Partnerships mission and the guidance for how we choose to meet together. All participants agree to basic principles prioritizing equity, community resilience, and health in all programs and projects. All participants agree to approach issues with an open mind, be willing to engage in dialogue, and commit to thinking boldly about solutions. Participants will state views and ask genuine questions. Participants will seek to avoid monologues and arguments, move to conversations where participants are curious and seek to understand various points of view. Participants will explain reasoning and intent, share how we reach our conclusions so that others can understand our divergent reasoning. Participants will attack the problem and not the person, organization, or institution. Participants will define key terms so that we can attain a shared understanding. Participants will share all relevant information. Participants will always arrive prepared for the meeting. During meetings, only one person speaks at a time. We will not engage in sidebar conversations. Participants will work to develop a comprehensive, common set of information with which to solve problems and make decisions. Participants will jointly design next steps. As we kick off our time together here today, I did want to reflect on some of the wonderful events that have happened on our LAC USC Medical Center campus over the last month. First is we've already presented to this body about the Welcome Baby program at LAC USC, but we thought it would be nice to share some photographs of the expectant mothers that participated in this wonderful event. It is for expectant mothers at the LAC USC Medical Center as a way of bringing wraparound services and care to them prior to the birth of their newborn and connecting them to resources, particularly with a lens to helping engage them with the LAUSD school district and make their babies transition through childhood and into school a really smooth and successful one for the entire family. So here's some pictures of our Welcome Baby event hosted on January 31st at the Medical Center. We also wanted to recognize, and we'll get into this in a lot more detail during the presentation, just last week, or I guess it was 2 weeks ago now, we had a really wonderful event celebrating the grand opening ribbon cutting ceremony of our childcare center. And we also, this last month, celebrated African American Heritage Month. You'll see here some photographs of the celebration that was hosted indoors due to the weather considerations, celebrating African American achievements and accomplishments in our campus and our community. So just wanted to share some of those highlight photographs with you all of events that have happened on our campus in the last month. And with that, I'm super excited to welcome Edgar Solis, our Chief Operating Officer for the Medical Center, to give us an update on medical center happenings. Edgar, welcome. Let's see, I'm wondering if perhaps Edgar is a little delayed in joining us this morning. Edgar, are you with us? Right. Well, we might have to come back to Edgar, in which case I'd like to see if our colleague Alicia Ramos might be available to join us and share some more information about the Child Care Center. Alicia.
Yeah, absolutely, Heather. Did my presentation get through to you, or shall I go ahead and bring it up on my screen?
It sure
Yay,
did. I got
did.
it right here. Yay.
All right. Thank you so much. Okay, so my name is Alicia Ramos. I'm with LA County Public Works. It's always a pleasure to join the HICP meetings. What we'd like to do is focus on one of our projects that came to completion, which Heather mentioned just moments ago, and that is the LACUSC new Child Care Center. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide, please, Heather. So this slide, this is the vision, and this is just something I want to reflect on now that we're here at the completion. When we look back 3.5 years, when it was a vision, it was something we brought to this group as the idea, and an idea that a lot of folks on HICP participated in, either as a parent to a child that benefits from the services at the Child Care Center, or as a local community member that took part in our civic art process. We're looking at a project here that was envisioned, and as we brought it to reality, it completed this past January. We were able to accomplish 41% local worker hire and also 39% targeted worker. So just as a reminder, targeted worker, we really want to engage with labor resources that have encountered barriers to employment due to some sort of status, whether it's the ability to get a high school diploma or if it's being involved, justice involved. So that's what targeted worker is, and very happy to see that our numbers are well above the board policy. Next slide, Heather. So here we are, reality, right? 3.5 years later, to see it come to life is something that we're always excited to see, and really excited that all of us participated in making this happen. So this is a picture of the outside of our new Child Care Center, which sits right off State Street across from the old General Hospital. Next slide. Some pictures from our ceremony that took place on February 22nd. You can see that Supervisor Solis did the ribbon cutting there, along with Dr. Galley and also first partner Jennifer Newsome. And of course, not complete without having the children there. So that was a really big surprise for me to see the kids take part. And of course, we do this, if not for anything else, for people. And we have some very important people here. Next slide. So really happy to see them take part in the ceremony. Maybe some of you can see some kids that you know there. Next. Okay. And so here's our welcome lobby. So you can see it's done up with some fantastic colors, just waiting to be put to use. So we are still going through the licensing process. So the building is complete, but the daycare operator is going through the licensing process, which we hope will come to completion soon. Next slide. So just going to highlight some of the interior spaces. To the left, you've got the toddler area. You can see some of the reading books, the tables, the colors to the wall. To the right, this is our preschool building. And I want to point out the windows there. So we're bringing in a lot of daylight, but we're also reminiscing on the old hospital, because we have these arch windows throughout the facility, which kind of are an echo back to our general hospital, which is right across the way at State Street. Next slide, Heather. So that's what I want to point out here. You can see the arches on the windows down at the entry lobby to the old hospital. It's just a little bit of reflection on some of the conscious decisions that the designers do when they come up with these designs. Not only do they want to fill the space with light, but if there's something subtle we can do, like the arch windows, I think it's particularly nice to be there and see. When you're standing on State Street now, to your left, if you're facing south, you have the old General Hospital with all of its history and its layers of meaning to the community. And then to the right, you see our youngest people on campus. It's really a great moment to stand there and see these two pieces of history coming together, history that's there and history that's yet to be created. Next slide. So these are some spaces of what we have inside. To the left is one of our classroom areas, and to the right, we have the nap area. So that's why you're seeing the crib spaces for the infants. And some of these rooms were actually dedicated by Supervisor Solis to particular members of her family. Next slide. This is our staff dining area. So while we have new spaces for the children, we also have new spaces that appreciate the hard work of the staff that are there caring for the children. Next slide. This is a program piece that I'm particularly interested in and happy to see that it came to reality. This is actually an outdoor space, but it's a covered outdoor space. So when the kids need to get the wiggles out, what have you, we've got weather, rain, or just sometimes too much sun, we have this space which is actually outdoors. So that circle you see, that semicircle off to the left, it's actually an opening. It's not a window, it's an opening. What I find particularly interesting here is the paintings on the wall of the trees, and then you look to the left, that's a real tree that's framed by this opening. So a lot of subtle things that went into some of this design. Next slide. There's our new outdoor play areas. So we've captured some shade. We have some soft surfaces down below. You can see there's a bit of a hillside there. So some slides. So looks like a fun place for the kids to spend time. Next slide. And so here are some more pictures to the right of some play areas outside. And of course, to our left, this is the civic art that so many folks within HICP took part in that process to select the artist and to give input on what actually was created here. And this is right outside on the exterior of the building. So, and that's where we actually did our ribbon cutting. So you can see the ribbon down below. Beautiful though. Next slide. And I want to finish it off with the entry courtyard to the two buildings. The Child Care Center actually has two buildings, but in the middle that kind of joins these two buildings is the old oak tree. And so there you can see the walk pavilion that centers around the oak tree. And we're hopeful that this is going to become the center of a lot of great ceremonial things, holiday celebrations, what can be done around the oak tree, not just to gather, but to express decoration, holiday sharing. Really encouraging to see what can happen. It's still sort of a blank canvas. So that concludes the photos that I have to share. I'm available for any questions if there are any.
Yes, Tana, take it away.
Hey, good morning. Alicia, you've been such a wonderful liaison for us, for so much in the community. Could you give us a ballpark figure of the build out cost of this? I mean, for future replications, what would communities be looking at? Because it's a beautiful build. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for that. The total construction, everything included, which means the cost to construct the buildings, as well as what we call soft costs. Soft costs are what it takes to bring this. The design effort, hiring the architects, the engineers, doing the geology studies, the arborists to look at the trees, the jurisdictional approvals through building and safety, all of that comes together. And for this project, it was $9.9 million to do all of that.
Thank you, Alicia.
Of course.
So I know that that the licensing process once again isn't in your purview and isn't in your control at all. But any sense of when the permitting might happen? Is there a sense of the timeline going forward for occupancy? I think the building is so beautiful. The next step is definitely have like the little kids and the staff members
Right.
really occupying that space, which will be so exciting.
Yeah, I can definitely speak to that. And like you said, Heather, it isn't under my purview, the operator's doing it, but we have a sense of what the timing is. It's not exact, but we completed the center in mid-January. So they started the process shortly after that. I know that supervisor's office is also involved in doing what can be done to expedite that process, but typically the licensing process takes about 8 weeks. So if you look at it as a 2-month process, and that's, taking into consideration that there aren't any hangups in that process. What the licensing process does is basically goes through to make sure it's a safe center. We've got all the necessary requirements to operate the childcare compliantly. If there's something that comes up through that process that needs to be altered, then there might be a couple of things that get changed here or there so we can comply. So I would say 8 weeks is about the time period that you can average. Will it take a little longer? Perhaps it can, depending on what comes out of those reviews. So crossing our fingers that we're not too far away from completing the process.
Wow, it feels very imminent. Like, by late spring, early summer, the space should be occupied. And one thing I think that isn't really captured here in these beautiful photographs is where the children are today versus where they're going to be headed to. It's a pretty dramatic change from where the kids have, the center that the kids have been occupying, um, which of course, as we know, is getting cleared out in anticipation of the permanent supportive
Yeah.
housing project that's going to be going in by our colleagues over at Century. So anyway,
Yeah. There's a
I
lot
do want to
of,
say
like
it's a
I
big
said,
change.
yeah, like I said, a lot of participation here by this group and also a lot of participation by the parents who have been a part of the existing child care center for a number of years. I know there's a lot of parents who participated in this. And like I said, it takes 3 years for something like this to happen. And their kids are moving on. So it's a
Yeah.
legacy. It really is for the parents who are there today, but maybe aren't here long enough for this building. They're a part of this process. This building exists not just for the kids who are going to use, but it's a reflection of the families who participated in helping to design this. So just want to take a moment to say congratulations to everybody. It takes time, it does. But when you get to these moments, you kind of have to stop and just take that celebration.
100%. And I love that reflection that so often the work we do here in trying to further the benefits to the local community, they may not always benefit us individually, as there's such big time lags with so much of this work. But put your effort in today to make those improvements to the future so that the community is stronger going forward. I think about that a lot when we look at the General Hospital West Campus development, which is going to be a multi-year development. So the people putting in their time today,
Right.
hopefully we'll get to the opportunity to see the benefits and the realization of it. But there are these lags with things like a childcare center and a narrow window of time in which the kids can benefit from it. So thank you again, Alicia. Maria, would you
Absolutely.
have a comment or a question? And Isidro as well. Maria Arellano.
Sí, yo tengo una pregunta. La verdad, la instalación se ve increíble. Mi pregunta es, ¿tienen ciertas adaptaciones, ciertas acomodaciones,
Have different features, accessibilities for kids who are disabled according to ADA?
Um, Alicia, are you able to understand the question to respond?
I didn't get the translation on my side. Could I
Yeah.
get the translation?
So sorry. Yeah, I think it was about
Just asking about I'm sorry, it's Monica. So she's just
yeah, thank you,
asking
Monica.
if she has if it comes with ADA accommodations for kids that have disabilities as ADA you know follows the ADA rules.
Yeah, thank you so much, Monica. I appreciate that. And thank you, Maria, for bringing that question to the group here. Absolutely. So this is also one of the big benefits of doing the new center versus the center that the children are currently in. When we get a chance to build new with these visions, we get a chance to design something that's inspirational, but we get a chance to do it with inclusion in mind. So ADA is absolutely a key component. In fact, we're looking at this picture here in front of us of the oak tree. That walkway was designed with the intent that we want to be able to get accessibility to all ability types. So for children who may be mobile limited and perhaps in a wheelchair, this takes into account they get to share this space too. We've made something that's ADA compliant, even down to the tree pavilion. But behind the wall, you see this picture in front of you, that curved wall with the arches. Behind there is a series of ramps so that you can take the ramps down to the buildings, because they do kind of sit a little bit submerged from where the tree terrace is at. But yeah, absolutely. ADA has been a component to this whole design. And in fact, some of the design features capitalize on being both ADA compliant and creative.
Isidro has a comment, and then I have a question in the chat for you.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Alicia. Congratulations again on the amazing center. Question, and I don't know if you recall, and again, it might not be is under your purview, but do you recall who the operator is going to be here?
I know them by individual name because I work with them directly, Lisa and Director Francis, but I don't have the name Isidro at the top of my head of their actual company name, but I can get that for you, Isidro.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Oh,
is it the Child Development Consortium of Los Angeles? Is that what it's
called? I think that's it, Heather.
Yeah. Yes, I think so. I think we met the director at the ribbon cutting, and I believe that that is the title of it, the Child Development Consortium of Los Angeles.
Great. Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Isidro.
Okay. So the question we have in the chat is, how many children will the center be able to accommodate?
Great question. So the center was designed to fit at least 72 children. However, as we go through the licensing process, my understanding is that we're trying to extend that to 88. So as I spoke about the licensing process earlier, it takes a certain amount of time, but since we're pushing for a higher population at 88, there might be a few things that we may have to go back and do to reach that number. So it could extend that licensing process, but if we can get that additional capacity, well worth the effort. So at a minimum, it'll be 72. We're pushing for 88.
Okay. Any additional questions for Alicia? All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today to share. It's such a beautiful facility. We're just, like I say, as the occupants of the building directly facing, we can't wait to hear the children playing and kind of see them in the spaces. So we're really, really looking forward to that. Should be wonderful. I did want to also make mention of a comment we saw in the chat from Father Chris from St. Camilla's across the way. He was mentioning that the Angel Interfaith Network has a decade-long mission of service to families with children in our community, providing care packages, emergency food cards, rent and utility assistance for new mothers and babies at our hospital. So just again, celebrating the wonderful work of St. Camilla's and the Angel Interfaith Network in serving families with children, some of our most vulnerable families with little babies here on our campus. And now here we have Alicia's, the beautiful child care center as well. So just, it's so lovely to see so many services coming together in service of children and families in our community. So thank you, Alicia.
Thank you so much, Heather. Thank you.
Always wonderful to have you with us. All right. I do know that we're a little bit out of order in some cases with our presentations, but just to let everyone know that we have a very big event happening at the campus this week, which is a Joint Commission visit, which is the accreditation process for the hospital. So it looks like we may not be able to have Edgar Solis with us here today. Completely understandable that there are other things happening on the campus that may have to take. Oh, you're here.
Yes.
Yay, hi, Edgar. I was worried we were going to miss you because I know you've got so much going on today. But
yes, very busy week today.
Very busy. Well, and you're masquerading as, oh, there we go. I was like, you're masquerading as Jorge as well. So I wasn't looking under the right name. But we're so grateful to have you, Edgar. We'll keep it nice and tight, but thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. Buenos dias. Thanks for allowing me to present today. I wanted to start with a COVID update. We're doing really well with COVID. Again, we're not seeing the amount of admissions and the amount of patients with COVID as we did in other winter months, namely last year. We do still have patients that come in with some symptoms of COVID, but really they're not requiring any ICU admissions, and they're not requiring use of a machine to help them breathe. The patients that we are seeing, they have other comorbidities. They may have, diabetes or other diseases that exacerbate the illness. But so we're not seeing the levels of COVID. Nonetheless, we are always, preparing, and as we do, and our recommendation is to continue to, have those safeguards at home. If you're sick, stay home, stay away from other folks. Continue to vaccinate based on the schedule recommendations. And the number one way to prevent infection with any disease is really washing hands and being mindful of what we touch. So continue to wash hands, but we're doing really well, and not seeing the numbers that we have in the past. I also wanted to talk about our rebranding efforts. I know that we mentioned a couple meetings ago that LEC USC was undergoing a rebrand and changing the name and the look of LEC USC. And what we've created is this subcommittee with members from our staff, our community, our labor partners, patients. Some of you folks are in that subcommittee, and our partners at Supervisor District 1's office. And so the purpose of the subcommittee is really to get the engagement of those stakeholders, to provide their expertise, to hear their concerns, their recommendations on how do we engage our workforce, how do we engage our community, what's the best way to promote the new name, also promote the excellent care and services that we provide here at the medical center. So in the future, we want to make sure that we invite some of you all to help us do that. I know a lot of you signed up in support of this process, and we want to thank you for that. And we're going to look to you again to help us promote once we do go live with the rebrand and launch the new name. We look to you to help us engage with our communities and spread that communication out to our community as well. We still want to maintain confidentiality. We want to have this big, awesome reveal that's going to happen soon. But we want to hear from you. What's the best way to spread this communication out to the community and our stakeholders? Most of you are very involved in our community, and we look to you to help us do that. And so we've had some questions. These past 3 years, not only has it affected our professional and work life, but it's affected our home life and our personal lives, and we understand that. And we take our employees and staff wellness very seriously, and this is something that our staff went through these past 3 years that is a once in a lifetime event. And we're still facing some of the traumas that we endured, and still dealing with that trauma today. And as a medical center, we recognize that was a very challenging time that our employees went through. And so what we've done is we have what's called H3, Mental Health One-on-One. And H3 stands for Helping Healers Heal. And what we do is, if this is a program that's available to any of our employees or our staff, that if they feel they need to talk to someone, if they need to vent, or just share their feelings with someone, that's something that's available. We have licensed mental health counselors on staff that are at the ready, and if they have any concerns, if they have anything they would like to discuss with them, that's available to them. We encourage them to do this. We remind them that this is available. In fact, when there is a traumatic event with a patient, for example, if there's an unfortunate death with one of our trauma patients, we offer that as soon as that happens to our employees so that they understand that this is available to them should they feel like they need to talk to someone to work through what they experienced. Other things that we do, we want to make sure that we continue to engage with our staff and keep them motivated. And so we've implemented a lot of fun activities here at the medical center. One of them being, we had constant requests for doing reactivating the farmers market here on campus, which we had to stop during the COVID years. But happy to say that through the hard work of Ms. Castro, we've been able to bring that back. And that's a huge satisfier for our employees. They pick their fresh fruit. They have something like a sushi burrito that I heard is really good. I've eaten some pupusas there so it's something that they really enjoy. Also, every other Friday, we invite food trucks from the community to get to park on site on our campus. And this is also available to our staff to enjoy the different foods that we have. And so other events and recognitions, we recognize our staff for the hard work that they've done through different events, to different celebrations that we have on a monthly basis. So we do try to provide recreational activities because we understand that the work that our staff do is very stressful, but yet it's very important. And I know our stakeholders and our patients and our community totally appreciate the hard work we do. But we remain, and we recognize that our employees do have stressful jobs sometimes, and so we want to provide these opportunities and these recreational activities so it can help with them to cope. And the last thing, I invite you all to listen to the annual report from our Department of Health Services Director, Dr. Galley, which he summarizes all the work that we did in 2022, some of the recognitions, some of the innovations that we had in the last year. And so I invite you all to scan that QR code or click the link to listen to Dr. Galley's report on all the great work that DHS did in the last year. And again, I want to thank you all for being great partners, and we hope to see you soon at the subcommittee, giving us some ideas on how we can communicate this exciting rebrand and new name launch that we have coming in a couple months.
Yeah, thank you so much, Edgar. There's so much going on the campus always. And I have to say, as someone who works on site at the campus, it is so appreciated, all of the responsiveness and care and attention from your leadership in terms of making a community that really serves patients to the highest degree possible, but also really takes care of the staff at the same time. It has been a long journey over the last 3 years, and there's been a lot of stressful moments and a lot of loss on the campus that I know is catching up with everyone. So I just want to commend you all for really digging in on that and finding ways to be responsive and be so kind to the campus community. We do have one question for you in the chat. It's from Father Chris Ponnet over at St. Camillus. His question is, staff and community have asked why new branding is secret and seems to be done without staff and community input. Some have asked why it did not come to this community committee for input.
Well, we partnered with an organization that helped us really guide us on how to perform this rebrand. In fact, we did get some input from our staff. We did get input from our community. There were several focus groups. We had to be very focused but at the same time provide a good sample from these different stakeholders involved. And so we did reach out to our staff here at LACUSC through a survey, and where they can click and provide their comments, their concerns with the name rebrand and the name change. We've conducted focus groups from staff members, from the community, from physician groups, and our USC partners as well were involved in. Again, we had to make sure that we had a very focused group, however, a large enough sample so that we had input from varying disciplines, varying stakeholders, and community members. So a lot of this was the name, and the rebranding was really based on those focus groups from the different stakeholders involved.
And I think, as you mentioned, Edgar, there was a sensitivity around this process that wanted to be maintained. So I think that was one of the reasons we brought regular updates to the Health Innovation Community
Correct.
Partnership on the process. But the kind of the interior process itself was something that was, I think, maintained with some degree of confidentiality, which continues to this day. And I think I think that's something that we just want to mention out, that we have brought our regular updates from Edgar and team to this membership. But as mentioned, there's a level of confidentiality until the final decisions are made.
Yeah, and we wanted to make it exciting, right? We wanted to have this big reveal, this, we dropped the drape, and it's like, wow, the new name and rebrand. So it's, there's not a lot of surprises in life anymore. And so we wanted to, stir up some excitement.
We're excited for our reveal party, right?
I am too.
Yeah, that sounds great. And I think a lot of community input did go into the thought process, a lot of exploration from our contracted partners that did work on this. We really brought a lot of expertise to the process. And I think everyone's going to, enjoy this entire process, like you say, with the grand reveal. It'll be very exciting for all of us.
And if I could add, I just want to make sure that we know the process isn't over yet. I think what you've described, Edgar, in terms of the subcommittee, opportunities to be community validators and to engage with us, and what does it mean to rebrand the hospital, not just a name, but what do people want to know about the hospital in this post-COVID time, right? And in how we have bridged healthcare to not only be about come to the doctor when you're sick, but come to the doctor when you're well, and stay well, right? And how can we be partners in that effort together? So so please continue to send ideas our way, and we will continue to uplift to ensure that there is strong connection to our community, to our patients, and particularly to the Health Innovation Partnership. So thank you, Father Chris, for your comment.
Yep. Do we have any more questions or comments for Edgar? All right. Well, thank you, Edgar. I know it's been a very busy morning, so we super appreciate your time with us here today. Good luck with everything else you have on your plate.
Thank you very much, and have a great weekend, everyone.
And with that, I'll keep Rosa here with us because she's going to take lead on the next segment update. We have an update on our General Hospital and West Campus development project. Rosa.
Hi, everyone. I was asked this morning to help step in to give an update on behalf of Doug Cohen from DEO. Unfortunately, he is out this morning, and but he did want to make sure that Health Innovation Community Partnership is aware of the happenings of the last month regarding General Hospital and West Campus. If I can have the next slide, yes. So as everyone knows, the request for proposal has been released. It was released on Tuesday, January 24th. Well, it was approved by the Board of Supervisors to be released on the 24th, and then released via their website on January 25th. It is available at the DEO website, and the website is listed here. Most important for us is the opportunity to bring any of the most gifted innovators in development of historic buildings like this to be interested, right, in this important community asset. And in thinking about what has been done on the first floor of General Hospital, it's really the opportunity to look at the mixed use opportunity of this, but also the response to community benefit, right? The fact that there are many community serving spaces that already exist in General Hospital, and that we want to grow that as we consider the needs of the Department of Health Services and our medical center, the needs of the county as a whole, and also the needs of our community. So lots of excitement around this solicitation, and hopefully, we will see the fruits of that excitement over the next few months as folks respond to this request for proposal. Next slide. So we wanted to remind everyone of the detailed timeline, and that is that we are again in the open phase of the RFP, which means not a lot of information, but what is publicly accessible can be shared. And so right now we have released a proposal. We have done a pre-proposal meeting on the 1st of February. There are non-mandatory site walk and mandatory site walks that have occurred. And when I say we, let me clarify, this is being released by the County of Los Angeles, particularly through the Department of Economic Opportunities. So the foundation, as you know, your partner here at HICP, has a role in some of the community engagement components, but just as a subcontractor. So really, this is truly a county-run, county-pushed process. What is left to do is there's a makeup mandatory site walk on the 8th of March, which is next week. And this is actually a new piece of this timeline because of the weather and some of the challenges that folks had in traveling to our mandatory site walk, which occurred this week. There's also a deadline for questions. So any questions that are being asked, I feel like, it's been a little bit difficult for partners that want to know more. To have that kind of conversation with our team at DEO and our teams that are involved, but really it's to ensure that no information that is not publicly shared, right, is shared with any individual, that isn't accessible to others. So it's so important that the questions go through this portal, and questions are due on the 24th of March. The answers to those questions will be released on April 14th, and with the final submission for this RFP on the 2nd of June. Okay, so the rest of it is on the right is related to once those applicants come in, there'll be proposal interviews, there'll be a notification right in September, and then of course a process of approval through the Board of Supervisors. If all goes well, right, our Board of Supervisors will have a final engagement, exclusive negotiating agreement on the 24th of October. So, all to share that over the last month, we've had the 2 mandatory site walks, plus the one that's coming next week, and that any questions that anyone has should be submitted through that portal. So again, that's the brief update from the DEO. Is there another slide, Heather?
Yes, there's just a quick updates on the 2 site walks that we have hosted thus far.
That's right. So on the non-mandatory site walk, there was a lot of interest among the development and architectural and construction community. There were nearly 100 attendees that toured our publicly accessible spaces, particularly the first floor of Historic General Hospital, the exterior of our hospital, and then a walking tour of West Campus. This was an opportunity for folks to just have, some sense of the campus and the relationship between the buildings, but more of a public tour any of you could come and do as well. So it was a very focused tour on public facing spaces of our Historic General Hospital. And then one more slide, okay. And then this week we hosted the mandatory site walk, and this was 100 attendees representing more than 70 firms. This one was very added the technical features of our experience, which included a 2-hour inspection of areas of General Hospital and West Campus that allowed for these development interested partners to get a little bit deeper into the specifics of the buildings and the site, so that they know what kind of conditions things are in, and can ensure that their proposals are responsive to their knowledge, right? The requirement of attendance was important because because this will be also considered as part of their understanding once their once their proposals are submitted. And then finally, we have the site walk, which will be exactly the same as what I just described on the 8th next week. So we're really looking forward to hosting that next group. And then our next steps is there'll be the development, and currently underway is the development of an addendum that is responding to the list of questions received by developers, plus the creation of the sub panels for the evaluation process. And as you all remember, there is consideration for some of the subcommittees for technical, for community engagement, right, that are being considered currently. So we should be getting an update over the next month or two regarding the structure of that evaluation process. So still lots of opportunity, continue to stay engaged and to volunteer to be part of those subcommittees. So if you have any more questions, please direct your questions to Heather at heather@thewellnesscenterla.org. And again, if you have any specific questions to the RFP, please do send those through the portal. And if we can put the portal the portal login, Heather, in the chat, that would be great.
Sure thing.
All right. So any questions that anyone has? Otherwise, I will send it back to you. I see a question. Hi, Kim.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the updates. I know that we have been talking a lot about community input for the RFP, for the project, for what we want, what we envision for the project. And I was wondering, and I'm not, if this is the space or could be the space to kind of share an overview of what the RFP has published so far, just so that since we're having those conversations, we're all aligned with the information that has been published and what it means, and like I kind of see how our input has been reflected, just so that we can then afterwards be able to make those inputs in the portal, just having that accessibility to that information.
Tim, that's a great question. I understand that they're being very conservative in their, the county in their way of sharing information in multi-facets. And so the way that the RFP was released was in written form on the website. We will take your question back to DEO for them to be the final answer, but I understand that there's a real caution to interpretation, right? So even us bringing pieces of the RFP now that the RFP is live, could be questioned. So I want to make sure that I don't. I'll take the question back, and then we'll have an answer, by next month for this committee, and we'll see what they share. There was at least 1 or 2 meetings previous, Heather, I don't know if you remember the months, where there were conversations about what was included in the RFP prior to the release. So those might be helpful if you want to go back to the archives and pull, the presentations. Those might be helpful to you, Kim. But again, we'll take your question back and come right back to you.
Thank you. And I see that this is the link for those items in the chat.
This is the link to the entire solicitation. So you'll have to scroll through it to find the sections on community engagement and community benefit that are included in the RFP.
Thank you. I'll check those out. And yeah, I have been hearing that a lot of items are private, which is completely understandable, but anything that can be, that's already public facing, that's already published and accessible to the community, any information regarding what's in the RFP, I think would be really helpful.
Sounds great. And it isn't that they're private, just for clarification, it's that the way that they're presented is the way that they would like for folks to receive it, every person who reads it, right, to receive it. And so I think, Heather, what you put up on the screen is the doing business with the county website where you can find the solicitation. And if you can see here, you know, this is the actual solicitation and you can see the RFP and exhibits there. And so as you read down through it, you can actually find your area of interest, click on it, and then look at that PDF as was presented when this was released earlier, last month.
Great, thank you. Let us know if a presentation or anything is possible.
Thank you, Kim. We appreciate your question and your interest. Thank you so much. I don't see any other questions. Heather, so back to you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Rosa, for the updates and presentations. We're excited that the process is underway, meeting its timelines, meeting its deadlines, and we're really looking forward to those next steps. All right. Well, I'm so excited to welcome Isidro Villanueva from the Department of Economic Opportunity, who will be sharing with us a workforce development update. I'm going to stop sharing screen so Isidro can step in and guide his own slide deck.
Thank you, Heather. Good morning, everyone. Buenos dias. Glad to be here with everyone on this Friday, already March 3rd. Can't believe it's already March, but glad to be here. Yes, I'll be sharing some slides and apologies. We'll go off camera while I'm presenting just so I can share my slides because otherwise my computer slows down. But then I'll be back on camera to take any questions after their presentation. So bear with me for a moment while I share my slides here. And Heather, if you can let me know if you can see, and then if you don't mind, you know, let me know if people have questions or just keeping me on task here, making sure I'm good.
Got it. It looks great. Everything's good to go.
Thank you, Heather. And again, good morning, Isidro Villanueva, the Department of Economic Opportunity. I in particular work on the workforce development side of the department. As you saw the presentation before, is also from our department, but that's from the economic development side of the department. And I'm glad that, you know, everybody's getting familiar with our department. We just became a new department July 1st of last year. We used to be known as the Department of Workforce Development, Aging, and Community Services, but then there was two departments that were created out of that. One being the Department of Economic Opportunity, and then the other being the Aging and Disabilities Department. So again, glad to be here with you, and I'll be just sharing some information on some programs that we've launched in the last couple of months, in the last few weeks. We did get a lot of American Rescue Plan Act funding. So with that, we've been able to enhance and create new programs to assist our communities that have been impacted by COVID, or just have been historically underrepresented or under-resourced. So I want to share some programs with you. The first program that I'm going to go through here, and again, I'm going to try to go through these quickly, but I have shared the links here to the websites where you can find all this information and go back and do some research. And then I'll share this PowerPoint with Heather, and she can share with everybody so that you all have it. So the first is our Economic Opportunity Grants Program. There is $54 million that are available for our micro and small businesses. So there's two different phases in which these grants are going to be awarded, or I guess, available for application. Phase one was launched back at the end of January 25th, and businesses have up until the 25th of this month to apply for those grants. Grants are for $2,500 for micro businesses with $50,000 or less in annual revenue, and the plan is to award close to 4,600 grants to our micro businesses. Phase two, which is for micro and small businesses and nonprofits. That launched just about a week ago on the 23rd, and that application closes May 20th. So again, those are grants of up to $15,000 and $20,000 for our micro and small businesses. And then for our nonprofits, there's grants that are up to between 20 and 25 or 25,000. And again, the goal there is to award 2,500 grants. So please go to grants.lacounty.gov. This is in partnership with the Small Business Development Center. You'll find all of the information there on how you can apply, who's eligible, all the different eligibility requirements. So please go to grants.lacounty.gov. Please share this information with our communities and our businesses in our communities so they can apply and be awarded a grant. Here's some information on just if there's some assistance that's needed in applying or just asking for more information. So please, you can direct individuals to call this number, or again, if you go to the website, you'll get more information. If there's issues with the application itself, just kind of, IT issues that people are experiencing, there is a tech support center number here also where people can call and get assistance. And in particular, there is assistance in different threshold languages. So again, people can ask questions and get information in the language that they prefer. So again, please share the information with our businesses, nonprofits, micro and small businesses, but please grants.lacounty.gov for those grant opportunities. The next program that I want to talk about is Fair Chance. Again, we want to make sure with all of our work around economic opportunity and economic mobility, as we create job opportunities, we want to make sure that all of our individuals have equal access and equitable access to these job opportunities. So with the Fair Chance, it's kind of from Ban the Box. Back in 2019, we launched a campaign to make businesses aware of the new law and understand kind of what the hiring practice is around Fair Chance and for our system impacted individuals. And so then this year we launched the campaign again, because back in 2019, what it was just kind of a pledge from our businesses just to get them to understand and say that they're going to follow the law. And so now we want to step it up at another level and then actually help individuals, system impacted individuals, get a job opportunity. So there's 3 different program goals that we have here. One is, again, to continue to increase awareness of the Fair Chance Act among our businesses, and also let our system impacted individuals what their rights are under that act. The second is to empower 1,000 system impacted individuals, again, with the information about their rights under the Fair Chance Act, and then equip them with the tools needed to be work ready. Again, the goal here is also to help these individuals find an opportunity. And then again, provide 500 businesses with the information and guidance on how to implement their own Fair Chance hiring practices, and then access hiring incentives resulting in a minimum of 200 businesses. So what we want is to get 200 businesses to commit to hire at least one system impacted individual by June 30th. And so the way we're going to do that is we're going to have convenings to bring in our business community, and then also to bring in our system impacted individuals, again, to inform them and guide them through the Fair Chance Act. And then we're going to kind of play matchmaker in that sense of connecting these individuals to these job opportunities. We have been lucky enough.
Isidro,
Yes.
I'm just going to ask very quick. I did get a question from the interpreter. If you could slow down just a little bit. It's a little hard to keep up. Thank you so much.
Will do. Thank you. And I see that there's a question, I think. And I don't know if maybe that was the ask to slow down a little bit. I think you're on mute, Heather, if you're speaking.
I sure am on mute. Maria Arellano has her hand raised. Maria, would you like to ask a question? We'll take a little breather and you can ask a question.
Sí, una pregunta, señor Villanueva.
Yes, Mr. Villanueva, what is your plan of action to ensure that people with disabilities can also have opportunities in competitive jobs, lucrative jobs, and that are also have fair wages? So what is your plan to ensure that they have equality at their workplace?
And I don't know if people need the translation, but she's asking a question about our plan of action to also assist individuals with disabilities and ensuring that they also have equal access to these job opportunities. So see, yes, we also have within our mission and vision is, again, we have what we call priority populations that we want to serve. And the people with disabilities is one of them. So sí, señora Arellano, en nuestro plan incluye también de incluir a las personas con discapacidades.
So yes, Ms. Arellano, it is a plan to ensure and make sure that they also have the same opportunity and to have these jobs that we are developing. So
part of our plan and mission and vision, our plan is to also serve that population. It is one of our priority populations. So any individuals that need, that special assistance, we have programs and funding available for training and job readiness. And so they can visit any one of our 19 American Job Centers of California. But they're also part, again, of our priority populations that we serve. And I can provide more information, I can follow up with more information on how to access those services through our job centers, after the presentation, after the meeting. I can share that with Heather. Great, thank you. So on Fair Chance, so we've launched a campaign again to assist our system impacted individuals. And so we had a launch event back in January. And as part of the campaign, again, to kind of raise the voice of these individuals and bring light to what these individuals have gone through, there's actually and some art pieces that have been created by a documentary photographer and filmmaker, Brandon Tosick. So you see here the pieces, and so they're currently housed at our Hall of Administration downtown. And so if people want to take a look at these and see them up close, you can go to the Hall of Administration. They're on the second floor, and they will be there throughout the month of March. So again, I encourage people to go out there and visit these pieces and kind of see the stories of individuals who have gone through, who are system impacted individuals and who have shared their stories for us. So like I mentioned, what we want to do is have some information sessions to again raise awareness and empower these individuals. So you'll see here, and I apologize, I think the font might be rather small, but there's a series of upcoming information sessions. Again, you'll have the PowerPoint so you can see this. And again, they're all throughout the LA County. So you have the information, the date, the time, and the location. There is one virtual session that'll be happening. And then there's also one for Spanish speakers. So again, you'll see some of the elements that are being included during this presentation. But again, we want to empower these individuals, let them know what their rights are under the Fair Chance Act, and then also connect them to actual job opportunities as well. So that was Fair Chance. We launched recently another we call High Road Training Partnership, and this is for careers in construction. We are partnering with the Apprenticeship Readiness Fund, which is really the nonprofit arm of the LA and Orange County Building and Trades Council that oversees all the different construction trades and unions. So we are partnering with them to again provide training and get individuals into a pre-apprenticeship training program within the goal of getting them into an actual union apprenticeship construction trade. So here's some just information on kind of what we call a high road model is working with an intermediary, in this case the Apprenticeship Readiness Fund, again because of their connection to the Building and Trades Council, and they oversee all the what we call the multi-craft core curriculum training providers, which is the training kind of built by the unions, and so knowing that construction is what we call a high growth sector, there's job growth over the next 2 years. We want to move individuals into these training programs, because again, they're gonna with the goal that they're gonna enter our union apprenticeship, which means that like, you know, there's a high quality job, it's a living wage, and you know, benefits that they're gonna have. And again, our focus is on all of our priority populations. Again, individuals who have been impacted by COVID, or again, just historically underserved or underrepresented. So our goal is to get 175 individuals enrolled in through the different training programs. And these training programs will be on an ongoing basis throughout the year. And so, you know, we encourage individuals to enroll. And again, I'll share the flyer, the recruitment flyer, where people can go and sign up and get more information as to, again, some of the specific eligibility requirements. Now, with the funding, this is, again, American Rescue Plan Act. With our traditional funding, you know, we're normally only able to pay for training and some supportive services. But with this funding, it allows us to do a little bit more. So we are going to be providing stipends to individuals as they go through training. We understand that sometimes that's a barrier, even though the training is no cost. But you know, sometimes people can't even afford to go to training because they need to work, they need income. So we're trying to mitigate that a little bit by providing a stipend while they're in training. And then, you know, obviously we're going to provide some case management, some additional supportive services, and then obviously help with the job placement and retention. But again, you know, it'll be on an ongoing basis, and our goal is to serve 175 individuals. And again, I'll share the recruitment flyer with Heather, and I'll try to post in the chat as well.
Perfect. Hey, Isidro, where are you intending to draw the members from the community? Is it 175 residents across LA County? Are there specific communities you're more tightly targeting?
Yes, it's countywide, but in particular, again, the specific communities, there's kind of an equity map tool where we want to recruit from again, communities that have been mostly impacted or severely impacted by COVID. But then again, also our different, again, what we call priority populations, our BIPOC communities, again, and just communities that have been historically underrepresented or underserved. But yes, countywide. And so, but there'll be, and again,
that focus and that emphasis on those communities of highest priority for the
right,
program.
right. And again, in particular, our Black, Indigenous, and people of color. Yes.
Yes, and my other question is, which of these programs are available for if any, are available to our undocumented residents?
Yes, so unfortunately, for most of these programs, they have to have the right to work, you know, documents, right? There's obviously some federal funding that's involved here, and then obviously just the fact that, you know, there's some the job requirements I have that, you know, individuals do have to show that there is some right to work, you know, documents in order to get onto the actual job opportunity.
Thank you for clarifying.
And then in addition, also women, in particular in construction, we also want to increase the number of women that are in this field or in this trade. So women is also will be an emphasis for our construction industry. And then I don't know if people are aware, but just this past week, there was the county board of supervisors passed what we call to apply a community workforce agreement, which is kind of almost similar to a project labor agreement. So if you saw during Alicia's presentation, right, there was some local and targeted worker hires that she spoke of, and that's kind of what the project labor agreement or community workforce agreement does. It kind of puts emphasis on targeting what we call local workers and then targeted workers, which again are you know, from specific populations that we want to emphasize recruitment from. So now this is going to apply to all the different development projects countywide. Before it was just for a certain number of projects, but now it'll be implemented countywide. And one of the outcomes from that community workforce agreement is that as one of the targeted categories of individuals that, you know, are given priority, if you will, is going to be what we call MC3 graduates, which are individuals going through this training program that is again coordinated by the Building and Trades. So again, that'll just kind of increase kind of the job opportunities for these individuals, specific to county projects. So that was some good news that we heard this past week. Another project that I want to share is Careers for a Cause. Obviously, unfortunately, we have a huge homeless also crisis here in the county. And in order to address that, there's been some funds that have been available to increase the capacity of our nonprofits and just kind of, the overall social services. So with that, what we understand that there is also a need for individuals with lived experience that are needed to kind of help serve, this population. So what Careers for a Cause is an 8-week training program that connects our LA County residents with lived experience, such as homelessness, justice system involvement, and other marginalized to hands-on and paid training. So individuals go through an 8-week training program, which is also paid, again, because of the, trying to mitigate that barrier of access to income while they're in training. And then we want to connect them with, a nonprofit that's serving this similar population. Again, we want to build an empathetic workforce. So Careers for a Cause, again, there's the website there, but there's currently, we just opened a recruitment for the next cohort, which will be taking place at East Los Angeles College. So the classes start in April. They'll run through June. And so you see here that you have the information here on how people can apply, when the deadline is, or if they need to contact somebody if they have any questions. But we're currently recruiting for this 8-week training program at East Los Angeles College. Again, it comes with the stipend, case management, and then job retention and job supports after. So again, if you can help us get the word out, let people know who have, and they don't necessarily need to have lived experience, but if they want to work in helping individuals and are helping us combat the homeless problem, this is an opportunity for them. There's also individuals that also can apply for certain county jobs with some of the different health departments. So again, if people are interested in just in a career in social services, please share this information with them. With that, like I said, we just became a new department. So if people aren't aware, here's our website. And then if you want to go to our Build Back Better Department of Economic Opportunity, there's a host of other programs that are available through our American Rescue Plan Act funding. And then in addition to that, how do I stop sharing? Oh, here we go, stop sharing. If I can really quick, sorry, share one more thing, because we were talking about earlier about the jobs particular at LEC USC. And where did it go? Well, I'll share the flyer, but what I'll say is at LEC USC, we're also working with our Department of Health Services, and they're currently recruiting. There's a big need for what they call CNAs, certified nursing attendants. So we're also recruiting to get individuals. They're actually recruiting for all 4 different hospitals, Olive View in Silmar, Harbor UCLA out in Torrance, Rancho Los Amigos in Downey, and obviously LEC USC here at the campus. So we're currently recruiting individuals will go through a 6-week training. After they complete the training, they must get state certified and then complete a 2-week internship at the hospital, and then we'll move them through the county application process so they can be hired at one of these 4 hospitals. But if people who are interested in working at LEC USC, we'll try to get them into that particular hospital. And then obviously then on our end, also there's some work to be done now, again, that we've heard that some of these operators are going through the licensing process. Then we want to get information about available jobs at these centers. And then not just the initial onboarding jobs, but then just ongoing, so that we know what jobs are currently, are available on an ongoing basis. So we can share here with the individuals in this meeting, and then obviously the Workforce Development Subcommittee meeting as well. With that, I'll stop sharing. I'm not sure what happened to my screen here. Sorry, Heather.
No apologies necessary, Isidro. Thank you for the very thorough presentation. There's always so much exciting stuff going on, but we do have a couple comments and questions in the chat, so maybe we can have you respond to those. We have a question here from Hector Cruz saying, the apprenticeship program sounds amazing. Will you also assist with job placement with contractors serving the local community?
Yes. Yes, so again, the goal is to either get them show them how to apply for a union apprenticeship training program of their choice, or get them sponsored onto an actual project, in particular, like I said, hopefully a county project, and connect them to a local contractor that can bring them on as an apprentice. And again, with the CWA, I haven't looked at it all, but I'm assuming there's also probably a goal of bringing on or percentage of. So before we used to have what we call the local a higher goal of 30%, and then the targeted higher goal of 10%. There might also be an apprentice goal, which again will allow these individuals from these training programs to go on to get onto these projects as well as apprentices.
Fantastic. And we have a comment here from David Galaviz, who said there are a few USC departments and community partners that might be interested in careers for a cause. There's a lot of overlap with some of the groups we work with. David, I'm not sure if you wanted to elaborate on that at all.
Isidro, thank you. Heather, we're very lucky to work regularly with Isidro. Dulce Acosta, who's on the line, my colleague at USC. Isidro, there's a number of groups, for example, that work with the Coliseum on local hiring, that really work to try to give folks a second chance into the workforce. We have Coliseum. We work with a number of other organizations, such as Chrysalis in downtown, that we meet with regularly. So we'd love to talk to you offline, and Dulce and I can do this with you, to talk about how we can, and even from a USC perspective, to be honest, to look at how we can partner with you and the county better to make sure that the same cohort that we're trying to address, trying to work with, that if you all have existing programs, we can help feed people into those programs. That's, I think, right, Dulce, I think that's something we can look at doing.
Absolutely. And I just want to recognize Isidro and his team for the 8-week social service program at East LA College. I served as the guest speaker. I see the members that were, the participants who were placed working on the ground here out in the community, and also others graduated on to pursuing a substance abuse certificate at ELAC. So it's really a feeder program into a job or further training. So just congratulations to you. I know this is the second cohort. The first one was great. I can't wait to see the outcome for the second one, Isidro. Congratulations.
Thank you, Dulce, and thank you, David. Yeah, definitely, I'll follow with you both, and yes, let's connect and get more of these individuals. Yeah, thank you, Dulce, for that. Yes, in that first cohort, also East LA College actually also hired one of the graduates on there to be kind of a coordinator for the program and be kind of an example for the upcoming cohorts. So thank you for that. And yes, again, please get the information out to get more people into this program.
Very exciting stuff. We love to hear the successes of the programs as well. So thank you for sharing that. Any other additional questions or comments for Isidro?
Great. Thank you again for having me. Appreciate it. And I'll share some information in the chat, and I'll share all the information with you, Heather, as well, so we can get it out.
Fantastic. We will make sure to get that out to everyone. All right. Well, a perfect segue into our next presentation. We're super delighted to have with us several members from USC. We're here to talk about a new and exciting project on the Health Sciences campus, which is the Discovery and Translational Hub. So, David, I believe you will be kicking it off for us. Please take it away.
Thank you, Heather. Thanks to you and Rosa for allowing this to happen today. I apologize in advance for my voice, everyone. I'm still a little hoarse. I had that flu that was going around, so apologies in advance. My name is David Galaviz, and I'm the Associate Vice President for Community and Local Government Partnerships with USC University Relations. Like many of you, I'm proud to say that I'm a product of our Eastside communities. I know my USC colleagues might be tired of me saying this, but I'm always proud to say I'm from Boyle Heights, right there on Euclid and Lanfranco. I went to local schools. My kids grew up or were born in Lincoln Heights, and our first family home was in El Sereno. So we have longstanding ties to the beauty and the depthness of our neighborhoods that we all share. I'm here with a number of community-minded colleagues and USC researchers to provide you with information on the Discovery and Translational Research Hub, which is a new project at the USC Health Science campus that will involve the construction of a new facility that will really provide us an opportunity to change to positively impact healthcare delivery for patients. One of the main themes driving the Discovery and Translational Hub is improving how scientific research and medical care can better be integrated to serve patients. I'm going to leave the more technical and detailed aspects to our experts that are here today. However, before we begin, I want to provide you all with an update on some of the current community serving purposes of the USC Health Science campus, and how we can integrate into our community and work with our neighbors. So Heather, if we can go to the first slide. First, a general overview. Dulce Acosta, who's here, and I work for USC University Relations. And as many know, USC is a really big place. We're one of the largest private employers in the city, top 5 in the county. And at any given time, we're a 24-hour-a-day operation on both campuses. And at any given time, we're the size of a small city. We can have anywhere from 10,000 folks on our campus to upwards of 20 to 30 people. So if there's a game or something else going on, we could have upwards of 100,000 people. So we take all those issues into account as we plan our campus activities. So our role within university relations is really to build a shared vision with our neighbors, including nonprofits, small businesses, schools, and residents, to partner together to focus on expanding educational, economic, and artistic opportunities for community youth and for our parents. This is kind of a matrix here that kind of talks about the different opportunities and programs that we provide within just university relations. As specific examples, we're one of the largest providers of low-income childcare in South LA, and we're growing our childcare presence in the East Side. We literally have a site down the street from both the county USC campus and the health science campus at Griffith Elementary School just on Zonal. We also coordinate the family of schools. We have small business development programs, nonprofit resiliency programs. We have a number of seminars that we run. So long-term, if anybody here is interested in finding out about the other opportunities that we have, we'd be more than happy to connect with you on those. We also work closely with our faculty to turn research into public service. Examples of this include the Urban Tree Initiative, which seeks to use USC scientific data to help develop shade canopies in the East Side, including in Boyle Heights, El Sereno City Terrace, as well as in South LA. We're also working very closely with the county on a food insecurity study, which we continue to revamp. And we also have a great new program through the Keck School of Medicine called Street Medicine, which literally takes physicians and physician assistants, goes directly to the homeless encampments and provides medical services and resources. We focus on creating a college-going culture among high school students through our programs, building peace in Lincoln Heights. And we're very fortunate to set up one of the first COVID-19 responses in the East Side that is still going on. That's a general overview of what we do. What I'd like to do is turn it over to Dulce Acosta for a minute to talk specifically about what she's doing in the East Side. And then I'd love to introduce Tom Buchanan, who's the Vice Dean for Research in the Keck School of Medicine and Director of the Southern California Clinical and Translational Science Institute, who's going to talk about translational research. So Dulce?
Yes, absolutely. Good morning. Buenos dias. I'm actually here at the Health Science campus. We're hosting a couple of our South LA and our East Side high schools for a day, a campus tour. And I think that really just speaks to a little of what, just a part of what we do in our department, which is building those bridges to and from the university. So I, like David, grew up a mile from here in the University Hills community of El Sereno and didn't know what happened in this space. So I am committed, not only personally, but professionally, to ensure that our youth, our families understand that USC is not there, that USC is in their backyard, right? And that this is something that is accessible to them, that the Health Science campus has to be a place where they feel welcome. So we do that. We work with all the local, mostly all, if not all, the nonprofit organizations, supporting them with showing up for them, what is important to them. So working with our researchers and working with our faculty to ensure that we're bringing the voice of the community to spaces where I know what it's done for me and my family. And again, it's a personal commitment that we have as a team to ensure that we are making sure that people feel welcome here on the campus. A project that's happening right now that we want to make sure that a lot of people take advantage of is the fundamentals of research training in Spanish. So we'll have different workshops. We're working with Barrio Action. We're working with Clínica Romero. We're working with other nonprofits, with Ramona Gardens Advisory Council, to ensure that they understand what happens within these walls, within these buildings. So with that, I just really want to turn it over to our experts, our researchers, so they could give you a little bit more information of what's actually going to take place with this project. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you, Dulce. I would like to just recognize first Tom Buchanan, who's our Vice Dean for Research in the Keck School of Medicine and Director of the Southern California Clinical and Translational Science Institute. So Heather, we can go to the next slide, and Tom will talk about what exactly translational research is. Dr.
Muchas gracias y buenos días. Unlike David and Dulce, I didn't grow up in East Los Angeles. I grew up on a small farm in Iowa, but I've been at Los Angeles 37 years on the health science campuses in East LA, and I spent the first part of my career working with young Latino women who had had diabetes in pregnancy to understand why some of them went on to get type 2 diabetes and how to prevent that. And more recently, I've been directing the Southern California Clinical and Translational Science Institute, which is a major research organization that works with our communities to understand their health issues and direct USC research toward those. And so in my role as Vice Dean, I've been one of the leaders in developing a discovery and translational hub, which is right in the middle here. You'll see pictures of the building, but what I want to tell you is that this is research traditionally has been done by people making discoveries in a laboratory, and sometimes those become relevant to patients, sometimes they don't. With the Discovery and Translational Hub, we want to completely flip the way things work. And so we're taking input from our community and populations, and Michelle Kipke, who'll follow me, will talk about that, to understand what the research priorities are, and then also from our healthcare systems, both the Keck system and LA County system, so that we know what problems are going on in our patients. And we plan with this new building to feed that information to our basic laboratory researchers so that they can do research on cancer and Alzheimer's disease and diabetes that actually will matter to our patients and can turn into precision diagnostics and treatments and preventions that are applicable to the patients that we take care of and to individuals that we take care of. So our goal, as you see at the bottom here, is to understand the real world health problems for our patients and communities and let those establish our research priorities, and then using patient and community data to form the research discoveries, and that's going to help all develop these new treatments. So this is really a completely different way to do research, taking in our community issues and health problems, but also the biology and the medical problems that the patients see, and using that to inform what we do research on and how we do that research. So that's what the Discovery and Translational Hub is about. And when we use the term translational research, I know translation mostly means English, Spanish, and Spanish, English, but that's not at all what this is about. So I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Michelle Kipke, who runs our community organization for the CTSI, and let her tell you a little bit more about translational research. So if we can have the next slide, and Michelle.
Thank you. Good morning. So just a word about me. I'm Michelle Kipke, and I have spent my entire career, which has been a long career, really thinking about our local communities and how do we promote the health of our local communities. I got my start in New York at the start of the HIV/AIDS epidemic. So I remember when there were 13 cases and was a part of the first CDC team that was really trying to understand what was going on with this crazy new something. Fast forward 35 years plus later, I'm still doing HIV related research. My focus has really been more on young people and young Latinx and African American, and really trying to understand how we really support young people and prevent them from becoming HIV infected. So if you know anything about HIV work, we could never have learned what we did at the start of that pandemic in the mid-'80s if we had not had strong partnerships with the community to understand the sort of what was going on, why were some people infected, why not others, and the source of that infection. And so that's just sort of at my roots, where my values are, which is that we would achieve our best together. Fast forward in time, I work with Tom Buchanan. I co-direct our CTSI, our Clinical and Translational Science Institute, and I lead our community engagement program. And one of the things I just wanted to drill down a little bit deeper around is what is translational science, and then how do we think about how we support the community, and to share with you some of the things that we're doing. So Tom just mentioned that some of this work is really done at the bench, and it's done at what we call basic science. And if you sort of see on the left, this is what basic science might look like, right? It's looking at the cellular level, it's looking at molecules, it's looking at proteins, it's really trying to understand the underlying mechanisms of disease and health. And then taking that information and translating it into something that's going to make a difference in people's lives. So I'm just going to move so one definition that we use is that translational research is a process, and it's taking scientific discoveries and using them to develop new treatments, new therapies, new diagnostic tools. But all of this should be with the goal of improving human health. If you're doing this research, as you see on the left of your screen, and if it starts and stops there, well, we've failed, right? The goal is actually to take those early discoveries and move them into what the next step is, which is clinical trials and clinical research. And that's where, when we have new therapeutics and new ideas, how do we test those out? How do we make sure they're safe? How do we make sure that they're effective? How do we make sure they're going to be effective to scale to a larger population? I do want to point out on the left side that is actually one of our STAR program in Bravo, where we bring budding new young people who are going to be scientists or going to work in the medical field, and we provide them with a lot of mentoring and support, and really exposing them to a lot of what science and medicine is all about. So let me shift to that center photo, which is clinical research and clinical trials. So this is a critical piece in this bridge of how do we actually improve human health. And one of the things that, as we think about how we promote health equity, it's really about making sure that the treatments that we're developing, or the diagnostic tools, that they're going to work with everybody, or that we really know who they're going to work best with and who they're not. Because you don't want to do, you want to promote health equity in all, and you don't want to deliver something to somebody that's not going to work for them, or it'll do harm. So clinical research is very important. And I will share with you that on the east side of LA, we actually have a group of promotores that are USC with our team, our community engagement team. We call them research ambassadors. And they've been offering workshops to help our local community understand more about what is research and what's involved, and why it's important that underrepresented populations are involved, but also all of the protections that are in place. You cannot conduct this research without there being tremendous protections and a lot of regulatory oversight to make sure that we're protecting the rights and the health and well-being of our participants. And I will say to you that I was a little skeptical that people might want to participate in this workshop, because, like, who really wants to learn about research unless you're like I don't know, a little bit of a geek or something like me. We've had thousands. This is an extremely popular workshop. Thousands of people who have wanted to understand. So that's a wonderful thing. This is how we think about partnerships in research. This is how we think about partnerships with the community and in translational research. And then the third photo to the right is just really all of this is then, it can't just be learning about this on a small scale. The goal is to actually get this into real world settings. So it really makes a difference in the way in which we are approaching care and again, sort of thinking about scaling this up to populations and promoting health equity. Let's go to the next slide. So let me give you just a real world example of what that pipeline looks like. I want to introduce you to Mark Hamine on the left. He's one of our, he's really one of our superstars. He's a researcher, a clinician at USC. He actually has received one of those really special medals of science and technology from President Obama. He's phenomenal. But one of the things that he has been really interested in is vision, and how do we prevent blindness or visual impairment, or how do we prevent it? Or if someone actually has become visually impaired, what can we do to bring that vision back? His roots started with the fact that his grandmother had diabetes retinopathy and she lost her vision. And so this is really what drove his passion. But one of the things that he's been very focused on is age-related macular degeneration. And this is something that happens, it's fairly common. Many folks, as they get older, they will lose their eyesight. It literally is a black dot in the middle of your eye. And that black dot gets larger and larger and larger, and you ultimately lose your vision. What he's been able to do is to use stem cells and then to do a retinal implant with those stem cells into your eye. And the center up top, I don't know if my pointer will work. This slide up here, what you see right here, this is the retinal implant, and it's stem cells, and they will put them. Yeah, thank you. Below, you see the eye, and that's actually the eye with the retinal implant. And suddenly folks are able to see again, and their lives have been restored. Now, I have a beautiful video that I don't have time to share with you. It's on the right, but we are going to provide you with the link. It's 4 minutes. It is worth watching because it tells a beautiful story of not just how this technology evolved, but how this technology really brought back life to this woman. And we are looking at how we can bring these sorts of technologies to our local communities and populations to address some of the most pressing health concerns and needs. Let's shift to the next slide. I do want to just share with you that there's a lot that we do with the community and thinking about how we promote community health and well-being. I'm just going to share with you some of the things that we do through the community, the CTSI, our Clinical and Translational Science Institute, and community engagement, but specifically on the East Side and with our promotores. One of the things that's very important is we conduct what we call listening sessions. We listen and we learn what are the most pressing health needs and concerns of our community. It helps us and USC think about how we can respond to those needs. We share that information also with our local leaders, local organizations, our local elected offices. And then we think about how we can respond. What can we do to respond? Some examples of some things that we've been hearing for the last few years won't surprise you. Mental health is at the top of the list. Folks are really struggling right now in the areas of mental health. And what we've been able to do is to develop, our promotores have developed an hour-long interactive workshop where people are really just asking questions and really working through like what is going on in their lives. It's a place and a time in which we can talk about this. It's a safe space. We provide information related to referrals or where you can access resources. We talk about resilience and how to build resilience, mindfulness, restorative circles. They're running about 20 of these a week, and they're extremely popular. And folks are not just coming once, they're coming multiple times. And it's just an example of one way in which we heard that this is a pressing health and urgent need, and how we can help to respond and bring some resources. The other thing that we're hearing a lot about right now is diabetes, cardiovascular disease. And as you all might know, heart disease is the leading cause of morbidity and mortality among Latino communities in California. Cancer is number 2, stroke is number 4, diabetes is number 5. So just in terms of diabetes, the things we've been hearing is we're really struggling with diet, we're struggling with nutrition and exercise, lifestyle changes. And so we're starting to now introduce cooking demonstrations. And we have a cookbook that we're sharing with the community. And it is a way of how folks can prepare nutritious meals that are really going to address some of the risk. And when I just mentioned the 4 of the 5 leading causes of morbidity and mortality in our local community, all of those are diseases that we will be addressing and looking at from early discoveries to how do we improve and personalize care to address those health concerns in our local communities and through this translational hub. And I will stop there.
Thank you, Dr. Kipke, and thank you, Dr. Buchanan, for that presentation. Now I want to turn it over to Brian Eck, who's the Executive Director of Land Use Planning with USC Real Estate and Asset Management, who's going to talk about the site. Brian?
Yeah, thanks, David. Thanks for having us this morning. It's a great honor to be here to talk about this project, and humbling to follow up Tom and Michelle with that amazing work, and contextualize, their work with the building that will house all this amazing activity that we do. But before I do that, prior to coming to USC, where I've been for about a year, I worked at the city of Los Angeles, leading community planning efforts for downtown Los Angeles. Very much embedded in the communities in downtown LA, and very focused on advancing equity in those communities, be it Skid Row, Little Tokyo, Chinatown, making sure that we could address past and previous disinvestment in those communities, and doing it in a sensitive way that both preserved the essential important elements of those communities without displacing what's important or displacing the residents in those communities. And also looking carefully at the design of buildings and public spaces to advance things like health and equity and wellness, and for those communities. So a little bit about my journey before coming here. So we had initially talked about this project perhaps over the last several years, and it had initially been considered at the lot up on the far end of the site, the screen here, up at Valley Boulevard in San Pablo. After many conversations, years of discussion, we pivoted and have now selected the site along East Lake Boulevard, where Biggie dead ends, on that large block there that's bounded by Alcazar in the north, San Pablo there to the east, and East Lake to the west. So that is the current site and where the building is proposed. We go to the next slide. Thanks. So a little bit about the proposed site layout. There are 3 existing buildings on the site. There is the Broad Center down here in the lower right corner, the Zilka Neurologic Institute just to the north of that. There is the existing lawn on the site, which is a major component of the site. And then the new building, the DTH building, proposed just to the west of that, outlined and shown there in bright white. And so it's replacing an existing parking lot with the building, improvements being made to that main lawn, creating that stepped terrace just to the south of that main lawn to create an amphitheater and a space that frames that existing lawn, providing a nice open space to that, and then being very careful about the landscaping that surrounds it, making sure that it is both lush and utilizing native plants that are sustainable, low water usage, and create a nice atmosphere for those visiting and spending time on the site. You go to the next slide. So a little bit about the major components there. There is a lobby entrance right off what is the step terrace there, and the lawn will serve as a gathering space. Research uses will make up the bulk of the project in the majority of the space. There is an auditorium located on the north end of the project, the east end of the project, supported by some of those pre-function and landscape areas. There will be a food service element as part of the project. Specifics have not been determined just yet. Building is 7 stories tall with 2 below grade levels. It's consistent with the surrounding heights of the building around it, and the design itself has been carefully crafted to both be modern and interesting and timeless, but taking elements from the surrounding building so it doesn't feel out of scale and out of context. Sustainability is a major driver for the project for us. We'll be looking for a LEED certification with the project. Go to the next slide, please. Let's see, is this the video? Yeah, so maybe you can hit play on this and kind of show a little bit of a fly through. Oh.
I'm sorry, I don't see a video embed anymore.
Okay, no problem. So we go to the next. Yeah, no problem. So here shows the East Lake frontage those the panels or the the louvers on the outside of the building are made of terracotta, which is an interesting choice, which will actually provide some nice warmth to the building. And again, it's really designed with sustainability in mind here. You go to the next slide, please. And then looking from the interior of the lot, the primary design element are etched glass. This is the northern exposure here, so we'll get less sunlight. So we're making sure we're mindful that it does allow a lot of light to come through here. A little bit about where we are in the process. We have filed our entitlement application with the city. It is a conditional use permit for a major development project. The City Planning Commission is the decision maker on that. We expect the hearing for that to occur early in summer. Up until that point, we'll be available to do outreach and engagement with the community to understand, and gather any input that they may have. We are currently conducting our environmental analysis on the project to ensure that the project will not have any significant impacts to the environment, looking at things like traffic, parking, noise, seismic hazards, hydrology, water resources, biological resources. We are nearly complete with those studies, and we're showing no significant impacts to the project and are putting together that final report. So that is the DTH building. Thanks again for having us, and I think we're here for any questions.
Yeah, Brian, I'm so sorry. When we converted your presentation to PDF, we lost the video link. However, my colleague Blanca is ready to go ahead and share screen and show that. So Blanca, do you want to step up and you can get the video queued up and ready to go? Thank you so much.
Everybody fasten your seatbelts.
And then it looks like we have some raised hands, so we'll be pivoting to those questions. Monica and Greg next.
And again, these are existing buildings that we're flying through here, looking at the Great Lawn and the perspective of the DTH building, the lobby located under those support structures, the terraced landscape area we're flying over now, and then backing up from the lawn to that landscape terraced area, and then over to East Lake Boulevard, where you can see the East Lake frontage with the terracotta fins that extend outside to give it some interesting detail. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Blanca, for stepping in. All right, we'll take some questions from our community. Monica, you want to go first?
Yeah, I think it's great that you're trying to bring all this into the community. But one of the things that I'm very concerned about is that I want to make sure that you are going to be having true community engagement. Also, feedback on design and amenities. You can take my statement as you like, but one of the things that USC has done, it has not respected the community when building what they've built, because the buildings that are there, when you go into the campus, so different from what the community was, right? And I understand this is a medical building, but I think that it has displaced people and has not been, and I think that you guys are trying, but I want to make sure that, the community is brought in and their feedback is taken regarding the design and the amenities and what you're doing, because I go there. I mean, I was born at the hospital. I, work in the area. And when you step on the USC side, you feel like you're in downtown in the USC, or not downtown, in the USC campus that's on the other side. It doesn't feel like the community. So I think that I know Dulce has done a lot of work to engage the community and stuff like that. But I think that, something like this, the community really has to be heard. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
And thank you, Monica, for your comments.
Yeah, Heather.
I know you've been such a voice. Yes.
Yeah, Heather, thank you, Monica, for your comments. Yeah, we've just on this project alone, we're up to about 80 community meetings, town halls, one-on-ones. As Brian mentioned, there's still a process going forward. I know you have a great relationship with Dulce, and we definitely want to continue to seek your input. We're more than happy to come back here to this venue, or if you all are part of other collaboratives and you'd like us to appear before those, we'd be more than happy to do that as well.
Can I just say, you said you've had 80 community meetings, and yet I haven't heard of one.
We've done many on our campus. We'll make sure you're invited to the next one.
All right. Greg, comments or questions?
All right. Yeah, I just wanted to ask whether at the site there, is that land all owned by USC? Is there any publicly owned land that would be used for this project? And then let me just squeeze in my second question. Is the intent that it would be USC researchers working there, or would some of that space get leased out to for-profit companies, or is it all gonna be USC folks?
I'll take the first part. Yeah, USC does own that entire parcel. No public land, public funds are intended to be utilized for the project.
I can take the second one. The intent is for us to recruit USC researchers to work in that space. We don't have any almost no free research space right now, and we have a lot of ambition to bring in new types of intellectual talent to help us solve really critically important problems in cancer, in Alzheimer's disease, in diabetes, obesity, cardiovascular disease, and arthritis are kind of our major areas we want to focus on. And we want to advance new technologies like some of the cell therapy that Michelle talked about, and synthetic biology, a number of things that we think will really be transformative in our ability to diagnose and treat disease. So we'll be recruiting new talent, and it's all going to be it's USC land, and USC investigators will be coming to the building.
Thank you.
All right. Yolanda.
Good morning. This sounds like an exciting project, and the research element sounds phenomenal. But in order to do that, I would imagine that you're going to be using and looking for people from the community to come in and be patients, or to be part of the individual studies that you have. So with that in mind, and given your location, community input would be important at the onset of this program. I know that the college, the university is very insular, and this would be very different from the normal process. But in addition to the input, the community has always felt as though the walls were built to keep the community out, and only the use of these buildings, the properties, are only for SE personnel, students, faculty. One way that you could not break down the walls, but open doors, would be to propose some kind of a shared space, so that you can enrich the other frontline providers in the area that serve this community. Give, for instance, nonprofits run on a very tight budget, all of them. Very little funding is ever allowed for administration costs or professional development. Everything is boots to ground kind of stuff. And they have to be really creative in how they utilize their funding. So one way would be offering local frontline providers the use of space, the use of conference rooms, the rooms to facilitate, as you mentioned, if you had a forum or some location, so that they're not paying and being gouged by hotels and other properties that have other kinds of large meeting spaces, so that they can devote time and talent to developing their professional staff. So one way would be to open up the doors and start to welcome the community in small but very visible ways.
Yolanda, we agree with you 100%. We host, I wish Dulce were here. I know she had to jump for another meeting, but we host hundreds of youth and parents, residents. We host everything from neighborhood council meetings on both campuses. We host city meetings. There's a lot of things that we're doing, but you're absolutely right in terms of continuing the process of ensuring that new construction and new facilities are open and welcoming to the community.
Yeah, and David, I think I'm sure that you have done that in the past. I'm sure that it's happened. But the occasions are sparse. The access is not easy. I know how to reserve a room, but I'm sure that not everybody does, and who to contact and how to do that without making it a DMV visit. You know, if you don't make eye contact, you don't exist. So that is one way that SC can start the process. The other, a really simple way is you have tons of transit vans going all over. You know, patients that go to CAC or that go to the Eye Institute need to go from one building to the next. It's a simple referral. It's a beautiful program. It's a wonderful, wonderful services, but a regular patient couldn't hop on one of those vans. They either have to pay for valet parking, they have to park underground and walk. If you got an 80-year-old mom, that just always isn't easy. So, you know, so there are like 100 different ways you can start to make really visible outreach. So when you say outreach and engagement, that to me is concrete and visible.
Thanks for your input, Yolanda. I think Mr. Dave will say the same. Those are really important points, and we're looking for ways that we can be more effective and more visible, because we spend a lot of time trying to engage with the community. And then, of course, in Los Angeles, it's so complicated. We often hear back, well, it hasn't impacted me, or it isn't visible enough. So we really appreciate this sort of input. And we have had, I've been intimately involved in the design of the building, and we've already had conversations about how we can make the auditorium, for example, available to the community evenings and weekends and things like that. So we have those ideas, but listening to the how from you is really important and very helpful. So thank you.
Thank you.
Could I just pick up on one other point that you made in your initial point, which is partnering with the community in advance of doing some of this research. And we're really committed to that as well. I want to just give you an example. So USC is participating in a statewide initiative where we're bringing cell-based therapies, exactly like what Mark Mayan had that example. And so we're going to be, we'll have something called an Alpha Clinic in Los Angeles, and it's a way in which we could be bringing some of these therapies in Los Angeles. But before we open that clinic, one of the things we want to do is to have lots of conversation, lots of dialogue, and listening sessions with the community. where we are sharing what these therapies are, right? And like, how do they come about? And like, you know, these cell-based therapies, which are probably the future of some of the greatest changes in how we think about health. Both introducing this to the community, but really then listening to the community about how do we partner as we think about bringing this clinic, bringing these clinical trials, bringing these therapies to the community, because we want to do this in a culturally responsive, culturally tailored way. And so we will be having those sorts of conversations before we actually even open this clinic or begin delivering these resources and services to the community. So I appreciate your comment and just and want to assure you that we are committed to having those sorts of dialogues well in advance of doing some of this research.
So thank you, and thank you for accepting that. But point noted, this committee started working together more than 6 years ago. More than 6 years ago. You were invited to the table. You could see how long it takes. And that to me is working in advance. This was done before an agreement was set up, before plans were made, before an architect was engaged. So all of that. So inviting us now is definitely a start, but this is not what the community would call in advance, just so you know. That bus left, you know, clearly, but I'm looking forward to seeing how these opportunities can develop in a true community collaborative where agencies and that are on the ground, that have connections to real people who live and use this property, probably since the day they were born, and still continue to use this property and this campus in multiple ways, whether as a patient or as staff, faculty. We want to be part of your community. We welcome the expertise. We welcome the level of education and the benefit and the health access that brings to all of us, the wellness. The partnership could be such a blueprint for community building, really building thriving communities that rely upon each other, as opposed to self-sufficiency, in which you're very good at, you know, I mean, clearly. But this would be about the whole. So thank you again. You were all very generous to listen to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Yolanda, for your thoughtful comments and reflections. As a longstanding, you know, leader and very committed advocate for our community, I believe we have one more comment from Hector, or question from Hector.
Oh, yeah. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having this. It's just amazing. One of my questions was already asked as to how to reach out to the research ambassadors that are serving the local communities so that you know, they could be more proactive sort of engagement instead of waiting to be called on. How do we as a community reach out as well? And you know, as far as the comments by Mrs. Duarte White, it's amazing. You know, I myself, you know, I'm a stem cell transplant recipient, and I hear about the research and what's happening and what's going on. And it's always about how do I become more involved and how can I contribute, right, to continue on that research and how it has benefited myself. It's been about 1.5 years since I received my stem cell transplant, and I'm part of a clinical study right now with another organization, of course. But I think it's critical that yeah, you continue to reach out to the community and engage them. And you know, I think one of the great ways that we can do that is, we heard earlier in the presentation about a farmers market, right? That is being conducted at LA County USC
I think to what Ms. Duarte was saying, how do you get the community more engaged, right? And have an ongoing farmers market that the community knows is occurring on campus. So that is something where you're really opening it up for that one day for that activity. And I think that really starts to create that synergy between the community and USC, right? It's something that doesn't have to be advertised really, but it's just once it becomes sort of part of that every week, or every month sort of event, it could really bring the community together as well. Just a thought. Thank you.
That's a great suggestion, Hector. And I want to, first of all, I hope things are going well with you. One of the things that I think we will need help with, because there's always this fine line between the bad things that have happened in clinical research and the good things that can happen. And so I have had more than 4,000 individuals participate in various studies on diabetes evolution and prevention here. Almost all of them have been Latinx from the community around here. And it's been challenging to try to make people understand why we want to include the community, because there's on the one side is, well, are we the guinea pigs so nothing goes wrong? And then somebody else, my take is on it is we really want the communities around to benefit first. And we want to know for sure that these therapies that we're developing actually work in the community. But we need help in communicating that to the community. So that's one of the partnerships we want to develop even more. So how can we make sure that the communities that we serve around USC don't get left behind in whole clinical research, and that they trust what we're doing? So we'll look forward to working with you all on that, because it's a tough message, but I'm personally committed to making sure that the communities around us are the ones that benefit from studies. And that's why I've done, all of my diabetes prevention research with the Latino community around USC.
Thank you so much. Okay, we are a little past time now, so I'm going to ask a lightning round question, comment from Greg and Monica, and then we will conclude our time together today. But thank you all so much for joining us. For those that may have to take off as we are past time, just a quick note that we will be meeting on April 14th rather than the first Friday next month due to the Good Friday holiday. So we are not meeting on April 7th. We are meeting on April 14th instead. That will be our next meeting. But with that, let us conclude our conversation here today. A comment or a question, Greg?
Yeah, I think I was just going to press a little more on just asking about how this facility would benefit the community beyond the, hopefully the medical breakthroughs will benefit the community. But in terms of sort of immediate benefits from the sort of the physical structure and ongoing operations, I heard a mention of, farmers market and maybe access to conference rooms on weekends. But is there anything sort of more substantial than that? Is there a commitment to hiring from the community? Will other amenities be made available? If you could say more about that.
Yeah, I'll take this one. The construction budget is, and our approach to construction will include, everything from union labor, diverse local hiring, and it's anticipated that it will accommodate 1,500 to 2,000 jobs in the construction phase. So, that's embedded in the project and been anticipated from the get-go. And then, just echoing everything that has been said, when we talk about the campus with those who, have a presence there, I think programming comes up often as something that is needed for the future. And we hear that loud and clear, both from everyone who works there and from the team that surrounds it. So it's a good chance for us to not just look at the buildings, to making sure that they reflect the surrounding community, but how the spaces in and around those buildings can support activities that can bring in the community and welcome the community. And so, we hear that often, and, we re-articulate that to those who need to hear it. So I appreciate hearing it from all of you too.
And Brian, in addition to that, we're also working on plans to develop local hiring and training funds so that not only the construction jobs, but some of the technical jobs that will be available long-term for this, whether it be certification or other needs for possible positions, that we work with community partners in the area to make sure that there's pathways for our youth to tap into those programs.
I just wanted to, well, Greg basically said a lot of what I wanted to say. The other thing I think is, could you work with like Isidro on what they're doing? Because one of the things that they're doing, they're trying to build pathways for employment on what we're doing on the campus, on our campus. So why not build that partnership? And that would be a way that we could see, you know, some of the things that you're doing. I'm not debating or the services that you're going to bring, because, you know, I think you guys do a lot of great stuff, but it's just that community part that I think it's important.
Yep, great point, Monica. While Yasijo was presenting, I was texting David, asking him how we can just sort of link up our project with what he's doing, or just link up our activities on the campus. So yeah, I was inspired as well hearing from him.
And we're on the working group with Isidro and Monica, but I think there's always more we can do, to be honest. So absolutely, we can, Isidro, we can follow up, as I know Dulce does regularly, and talk about how we really develop how, you know, how we more formalize the work that we're all doing.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Monica, for that question. And yes, here to support and see how we can coordinate on those efforts. So thank you.
Yes. Thank you for joining us today, for sharing this exciting information, and to being open to hearing about, you know, the desire among this community to truly be strong partners to USC, and to find to maximize on every opportunity to benefit from the incredible resources that USC does bring to the table. So thank you so much for sharing some of the highlights of the research and the investments that are being made in science and in the infrastructure of the community. And I love that HICP is able to participate with you in that conversation about how to maximize the benefit for our community. So thank you for joining us today. It's been wonderful to have you all with us.
Thanks for having us, and thanks for your input.
All right. Well, we are at time, everyone. So thank you so much for joining us today for a really great set of updates and information about our campus projects, about our partnerships with the Department of Economic Opportunity and with USC, and really exploring the possibilities and potential there. Just as a heads up and a reminder, as mentioned, once again, we will be meeting on the second Friday of April due to the Good Friday holiday. We have some highlights already anticipated for that meeting, including looking at local housing development projects, getting an update on our Third and Dangler project. We also want to dig in a little more deeply on mental health resources for our community, and how we all kind of address and recover from the pandemic's ongoing impacts to our community, in addition to the many other factors that kind of underlie some of the community trauma elements that are experienced in our local communities, and particularly with the focus, I think, on young people in our community. So that is what we're looking forward to in April. We hope you'll all be able to join us on the 14th. And with that, have a wonderful weekend. Hope everyone stays warm and dry through all of these crazy weather patterns we've been experiencing, and looking forward to seeing you all in April. And just a quick little shout out that the Wellness Center will be hosting our 9th anniversary celebration on Saturday, March 25th, there in front of the historic General Hospital on the steps. All are invited, all are welcome. Please come join us. We would love to see you participate in the celebration of 9 years of the Wellness Center being here at LAC USC in service to the community. So certainly hope you can join us on Saturday, March 25th. We'll be sending out invitations to the entire membership list of the Health Innovation Community Partnership. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Bye.